for more than 4 decades. This is how they hunted the Golden State Killer. The trail begins in California's Central Valley. In 1974, residents around Visalia report a strange series of nighttime burglaries. The intruder enters empty houses. He opens drawers, moves possessions, steals coins and jewelry, then disappears. Sometimes the objects he takes have little financial value. The pattern suggests that stealing money is not the only purpose. Investigators call the unknown offender the Visalia ransacker. He appears to study neighborhoods before entering them. He knows where fences end, where dogs are kept, and which routes lead away from the houses. He moves through backyards instead of streets. He chooses homes near canals, fields, schools, and open land, places that offer several exits. On September 11th, 1975, the pattern changes. A masked intruder enters the Visalia home of Claude Snelling and attempts to abduct Snelling's teenage daughter. Snelling confronts him. The intruder shoots and kills him before escaping. Decades later, DeAngelo will admit responsibility for the murder. At the time, investigators do not know the killer is also a police officer. DeAngelo is working for the Exeter Police Department, roughly 10 miles or 16 kilometers from Visalia. His job gives him training, authority, and an understanding of how crimes are investigated. He knows how officers search an area. He understands response times. He knows which mistakes leave evidence behind. The man being hunted understands the hunters. By the summer of 1976, a new series of attacks begins east of Sacramento. The offender is given another name, the East Area Rapist. The attacks initially concentrate around Rancho Cordova, Carmichael, and Citrus Heights. The neighborhoods look ordinary. Single-story homes, wide streets, wooden fences, drainage canals, and open spaces run behind many properties. The offender uses that geography. Before attacking, he appears to conduct surveillance. Residents report prowlers, strange telephone calls, disturbed gates, and evidence that someone has entered their yards. He learns the layout of houses before returning. He sometimes enters while people are away and leaves bindings or weapons ready for a later attack. Then he comes back when they are home. At first, he often targets women who are alone. Later, he begins attacking couples. He wakes them while they sleep. He binds them and separates them. He threatens to kill them if they resist. He moves through the house, eats food, searches drawers, and steals personal objects. He behaves as though he controls the building. Then he vanishes through the same dark routes he studied earlier. The scale of the crimes creates fear across Sacramento County. Residents buy locks, dogs, alarms, and firearms. Community meetings fill with people demanding answers. Police patrol the neighborhoods. Volunteers watch the streets. Composite sketches circulate. But the descriptions vary. Witnesses see a masked man in darkness, often for only seconds. His height, hair, clothing, and apparent age change from report to report. He may also alter his appearance. The investigators have patterns. They have footprints, stolen objects, bindings, and accounts from survivors. What they do not have is a name. The offender also understands jurisdiction. His attacks cross city and county boundaries. Information moves slowly between agencies. One department records a burglary. Another investigates a sexual assault. A third follows a suspicious prowler. Each piece may appear local. Together, they describe a single system. But in the 1970s, those systems are often stored on paper, inside separate buildings, under separate case numbers. The criminal moves faster than the information. On February 2nd, 1978, Brian and Katie Maggiore are walking their dog in Rancho Cordova. They encounter a man connected to the neighborhood attacks. The couple runs. The attacker chases them and shoots them both. Their murders show that the offender is willing to kill outside a house and in a residential street. DeAngelo will eventually plead guilty to both killings. But in 1978, the case does not produce an arrest. Then the East Area Rapist appears to move. Attacks are reported farther from Sacramento, including communities in the East Bay. The distances increase. The method evolves. By late 1979, couples in Southern California are being attacked and murdered inside their homes. Investigators there use another name, the original Night Stalker. On December 30th, 1979, Deborah Manning and Robert Offerman are killed in Goleta. In March 1980, Lyman and Charlene Smith are murdered in Ventura. Keith and Patrice Harrington are killed in Dana Point that August. Manuela Witun is murdered in Irvine in February 1981. Sherry Domingo and Greg Sanchez are killed in Goleta that July. The final crime later attributed to DeAngelo occurs on May 5th, 1986. 18-year-old Janelle Cruz is murdered inside her Irvine home. Then the attacks stop. There is no arrest, no confirmed death, no explanation. The record does not establish why DeAngelo stopped. He may have changed because of age, family circumstances, work, fear of capture, or something investigators never discovered. What is known is that the man behind the crimes returns to an ordinary life. The victims and investigators do not. For years, the Northern California rapes and Southern California murders are treated as related possibilities rather than one proven series. Forensic technology eventually changes that. DNA testing allows evidence from separate crime scenes to be compared. In 2001, genetic evidence links crimes attributed to the East Area Rapist with murders attributed to the original Night Stalker. Several names collapse into one offender. The cases are no longer separate mysteries. They are one enormous case stretching across California. But knowing the crimes belong to one man is not the same as knowing his identity. Investigators compare the crime scene DNA with law enforcement databases. There is no match. The killer's profile is present, but his name is not. Traditional DNA databases depend on a direct connection. A person must already have a qualifying sample in the system, or police must identify a suspect and collect one. DeAngelo has avoided both paths. The case remains alive through survivors, cold case detectives, journalists, and investigators who continue reviewing old evidence. In June 2016, the FBI and California law enforcement agencies launch a national campaign. They offer a $50,000 reward. The FBI describes an offender responsible for approximately 45 sexual assaults, 12 murders, and more than 120 residential burglaries between 1976 and 1986. Investigators release maps, sketches, recordings, and details about stolen property. They ask the public to look for unusual collections of coins, rings, earrings, identification cards, or other objects that may have been taken from homes. Thousands of possibilities have already been considered. DNA has eliminated many of them. Still, there is no name. The breakthrough comes from a database built for a different reason. Consumer DNA testing has allowed people to download their genetic information and upload it to genealogy websites. These sites help users find relatives and construct family trees. Investigators realize that the killer does not need to have submitted his own DNA. A relative may have done it for him. A genetic profile created from preserved crime scene evidence is uploaded to GEDmatch, a public genealogy database. It does not produce the killer's name. Instead, it produces distant genetic relatives. People who may share ancestors with the unknown man several generations earlier. Investigators and genealogists begin building family trees backward and forward. Birth records connect parents to children. Marriage records connect families. Obituaries reveal siblings, cousins, locations, and ages. The tree expands across generations and contains large numbers of possible descendants. Most are impossible suspects. Some are women. Some are too young. Others lived far from California or could not have been present during the crimes. Investigators eliminate them one by one. They compare age, sex, geography, physical description, family connections, and access to the areas where the attacks occurred. Eventually, the branches narrow toward Joseph James DeAngelo. He fits the timeline. He lived in the relevant regions. He had worked as a police officer from 1973 to 1979. He had served with the Exeter Police Department while the Visalia crimes were occurring, and later with the Auburn Police Department during part of the Sacramento series. But genealogy is an investigative lead, not final proof. Detectives still need his DNA. They place DeAngelo under surveillance. While he shops, investigators recover genetic material from the handle of his car. They later obtain another sample from a discarded tissue in his household trash. The samples are compared with evidence preserved from the old crime scenes. They match. The investigation that once covered hundreds of neighborhoods, thousands of records, and generations of one family has narrowed to material left on a car door and inside a garbage bin. On April 24, 2018, officers arrest DeAngelo at his Citrus Heights home. The suspected offender has been living close to areas he once terrorized. He is a retired mechanic, a father, a grandfather, and a former police officer. None of those identities prevented the other one from existing. The prosecution becomes almost as large as the investigation. 6 district attorneys' offices work together. The evidence includes more than 1.3 million pages of discovery. Prosecutors estimate that a full trial could take years and force aging survivors and witnesses to relive the case again. On June 29, 2020, inside a ballroom at California State University, Sacramento, DeAngelo pleads guilty to 13 counts of first-degree murder and 13 counts of kidnapping to commit robbery. He also admits to 161 uncharged crimes involving 61 additional victims. Many sexual assaults can no longer be prosecuted because the statutes of limitation in effect at the time have expired. The plea agreement removes the death penalty and guarantees that he will never be released. On August 21, 2020, DeAngelo is sentenced to multiple consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. More than 4 decades after the first known murder, the hunt is formally over, but the method that ended it remains unsettled. DeAngelo never uploaded his DNA to the genealogy database. His relatives created the genetic path that led investigators to him. Their profiles exposed a man they may never have known through biological connections they could not erase. The Golden State Killer spent years defeating locks, patrols, jurisdictional borders, witness descriptions, and traditional databases. He was finally caught because DNA does not belong only to one person. It belongs partly to parents, children, cousins, and strangers connected through generations. The killer left evidence at the crime scenes. His family tree gave that evidence a name. And the next suspect may already be inside someone else's